Back in 1967, Simon and Garfunkel asked, "Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio?" Well, now we could be singing, "Where have you gone, Cal Ripken?"
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you don't believe me, let me just show you my lower third, where it's called Sully. That's my name. Follow me at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And if you're listening to me every day on both Locked On MLB and on Locked On A's, which I'm doing through the end of the regular season, well, make sure to put in that hashtag Everyday Sully. It helps us understand who's listening to us every single day. I know you are. And I'm looking at you. Yes, you. Hey, today's episode of Locked On MLB is brought to you by our good friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks. It's the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB to win $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't need to win the $50 bonus. PrizePicks, run your game. Okay, well, today's date is the 6th day of September 2024. And 29 years ago today, Cal Ripken Jr. broke Lou Gehrig's seemingly unbreakable record and passed him for most consecutive games played, 2,131. It was an absolutely magical, pitch-perfect day, which could have been completely ruined earlier that year. I'll explain that the record was Ripken played every day, every single day since his rookie year in 1982 through that game in 1995. He never missed a day. And he played shortstop, which is a demanding position. And he took no days off. They didn't move him to first base. They didn't make him a DH. He played a demanding infield position year in and year out and played 162 each day. Now, just think of one of his early managers like Earl Weaver or Joe Altobelli or even his own pop, Cal Ripken Sr., would have said, Cal, just take today off early in his career. Or, do you know what? We're out of contention because there were a bunch of bad Oriole teams he played on. Said, Cal, you know what? We got a kid who plays in Rochester. We're going to give him a start today. Go sit in the whirlpool. Well, that didn't happen. And year out, he was the Iron Man, the Iron Horse, whatever you want to say. So when he passed the record, it all came together in a magical way. It was on ESPN, and it got to be the game. It was the ESPN nationally broadcast game. Chris Berman, back when Chris Berman was Chris Berman, was calling the game. It was against the California Angels. And mind you, California Angels were a very, very good team that year, and they narrowly missed the playoffs. And Ripken homered the night before when he tied the record, and he homered the day he passed the record with the famous call by Chris Berman, "Oh my goodness, he's done it again." It became a phenomenal celebration of everything that was good in baseball. He was a tremendous player, beloved player in Baltimore. Camden Yards, they didn't do it on the road. He didn't break the record at the Kingdome in Seattle. He did it in front of his home fans. And he did it with dignitaries there. Frank Robinson, the great Frank Robinson, was there. President Clinton was there. One face that I really, this is the comedy and film nerd in me, really love seeing in the stands. And by the way, he's my ultimate dream guest on the show, is Barry Levinson. If you don't know who Barry Levinson is, Barry Levinson was a wonderful writer, wrote for great comedy shows like The Carol Burnett Show, and wrote for Mel Brooks, and later became an extraordinarily talented film director with great films like Good Morning Vietnam and Diner and Rain Man and Avalon and Tin Men. And for baseball fans, he directed The Natural. He won the Academy Award for Rain Man. He did just a remarkably talented director and rabid Orioles fan. Absolutely crazed Orioles fan. As most of those great films like Tin Men and Diner and Avalon, they all took place in Baltimore. Anyway, I digress. Also, Joe DiMaggio was there. And Brooks Robinson was there, who had the great longevity in the career. He played more games as an Oriole as anyone in their history. And Joe DiMaggio was there basically to represent Lou Gehrig because he was teammates with Lou Gehrig, of course. And DiMaggio, who had a wonderful speaking voice. By the way, DiMaggio spoke at my college graduation, but I digress. And he gave a wonderful speech. And at the ceremony, some of his contemporary players came up and said something. I remember Chili Davis, the great Chili Davis, who was playing for California at the time, said a few things and everything. And of course, the great moment, other than him hitting the home run, is when it became an official game. The record was broken, and he did the famous lap around Camden Yards, high-fiving everybody. And it was really one of those great memorable moments in baseball history. Whenever you see any montage of baseball events, they have to, the memory, the great moments, they have to include that. It's just one of those instantly recognizable moments in baseball history. I was just out of college. I was 23 years old, just out of college, kind of not having my best year. 1 year removed from New York University. And I remember I went to a friend's house and 2 or 3 people watched it. And I was the only real baseball fan there. But everyone watched it. And Jennifer Thompson, who was a friend of mine who I went to college with, who was from she was from Washington, and the Nationals didn't exist then. I remember her turning to me saying, "I've got goosebumps." Watching it. It was something that transcended just baseball fandom. And it was almost ruined because earlier that year, if you remember, the strike was in 1994. And that wiped out the season in August. So his consecutive games started, that went through the middle of August when the strike was. Excuse my itch in my eye. And then the season began again after Judge Sotomayor, that one, lifted the lockout, and so baseball came back. But if you remember, the owners, and this is one of the reasons why I always find the owners to be such a disgrace, especially the owners of that period of time, just a complete disgrace. I have zero sympathy for any of them. They were all awful. We're going to institute replacement players. They're going to basically say, okay, we're not getting major leaguers. We'll get replacement players. You're not going to show up to work. We'll just get, minor leaguers who didn't really have a shot at the majors, players whose careers were going nowhere, or people who, just people who had no desire to join the union. And it was going to be a joke. It was essentially going to turn Major League Baseball into an independent minor league level of play. But if they did that, and the Orioles played even a single game with replacement players, that would have officially ended Cal Ripken's streak. Fortunately, cooler heads prevailed, and Cal Ripken's streak continued. And as I said, it became something that transcended baseball, but it also showed baseball at its best in the way that it was the past, present, and future all happening at the same time. It was something happening at the present time, 1995. It was happening. It's happening now. And Ripken is connected. He's creating a record that's going to continue on after this day. So the present and the future exist, but the past is there too. DiMaggio, Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, all being there. And basically having that moment like Anakin, Yoda, and Ben Kenobi at the Ewok celebration, sort of looking at Luke saying, that's right, you're now part of it. You're now part of us. You have joined the pantheon of legends. And baseball needed that big time. For those of you who were not yet born or too young to remember, the 94 strike and the 95 lockout were devastating to fans. Fans did not want to come back. They were angry. They were angry that the World Series was canceled. The city of Montreal never recovered in terms of their fandom. They were so bitter about what happened. And baseball needed to have something positive to get the fans, like my friend Jennifer, to get goosebumps about the game. Now, they didn't have to worry about me. Even back then, the nanosecond the season started, I was there opening day at Yankee Stadium. Now, I'm not a Yankee fan, and they played the Texas Rangers. I'm not a Ranger fan. I just wanted to see baseball. Actually, my cousin Dave and I went to go see a minor league game. There was a minor league game before the opening of the major leagues. It was the first professional game since the lockout. It was a game in New Haven. The New Haven Ravens played. So that's how badly the two of us want to see baseball. But the rise of a record like that can unite the people who are baseball fans and create a powerful sense of community and excitement. We all saw that with the Sosa McGwire chase, which we all know was artificially enhanced, but the effects of that chase lived on. And I don't think Major League Baseball returned the money they made, nor tore down the stadiums that were built in the wake of the popularity of that. But I can't help but wonder and think that maybe, just maybe, baseball could use a new record breaker. It's time. The problem is, I can't figure out who that person's going to be. All right, let's hear from our friends over at Ibotta. Now, this is the time of the year. It's basically not technically fall, but psychologically it's fall. We're into September right now. But this is a time that if you're busting out the hibachi or busting out the grill, do you know what? You're probably tailgating. Now, if you want to stock up on your tailgating grilling favorites and earn cash back on every purchase, you should use Ibotta. So you don't have to choose between burgers or hot dogs. You can get both. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 a year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip. Or it could make you buy that flight you've been eyeing or a fancy dinner you've been craving. Other apps that give you points don't amount to much. With Ibotta, you can earn cash back that you withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila, the money is yours. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. It's time you joined the over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. And right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play, almost read that wrong, and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's IBOTTA, Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. Ibotta. Let's start saving some money. Hey, this is a reminder that Locked On has begun the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's called Locked On Sports Today, and it's there for you on YouTube and on the Amazon Fire TV app and the free Fire TV channel app. Check out Locked On Sports Today, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I was thinking about this. I was thinking about the time that passes between some of the great records. Now, I had mentioned Lou Gehrig and his record being broken by Cal Ripken. Gehrig's streak ended in 1939. Ripken passed it in 1995. That's 56 years. 56 years. So if someone was to start today to break Ripken, they'd have to play between now and 2051. And hopefully I'll still be doing the Locked On Podcast Network then. I think about Pete Rose, and between the end of Ty Cobb's career and when Pete Rose passed Ty Cobb on September 11, 1985, 57 years had passed. Several generations had come and gone. But between the end of Babe Ruth's career, when he finished his career up with the Boston Braves in 1935, and when Henry Aaron passed him in 1974, 39 years had passed. Between the end of Aaron's career, and the end of Bond's career when he passed Aaron, that was 31 years. So again, several decades going past. That means if someone starts it now, they would wind up, or if someone like 31 years after Bond's breaking, it would be 2038. Now, I actually think baseball kind of needs a new home run king and a new hit king for this reason. Rose and Bonds have a lot of baggage with them. Now, I've said this before, and I've said it again. Rose is not in the Hall of Fame because he doesn't want to be in the Hall of Fame. Baseball has given him many, many chances for reinstatement. And great players have been suspended and reinstated in the past, including Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle. But every time Rose has been up for reinstatement, he has always done 180 degrees from what he needed to do to get reinstatement. And the fact that we're still talking about his Hall of Fame eligibility shows that that's what he really wants. The nanosecond he's in the Hall of Fame, Rose's story is over until he dies or someone passes him on the hit list. And he may want to be in the Hall of Fame, but he would rather be able to cash in on his martyrdom. Bonds is a different story. I think Bonds wants to be in the Hall of Fame. And I've been saying this for years. And now I've seen a couple other people saying it. I think it's parallel thought. I don't think anyone's stealing my idea. But I think Bonds should get an at-bat and reset his Hall of Fame clock until a lot of the people who have something against him dies off. People point to the PED stuff, but people just didn't like Bonds to begin with. They didn't like Bonds when he was skinny. People didn't like A-Rod when people thought he was clean. Sometimes people just don't like a player, and they use the PEDs to deflect whatever feelings they have. No one has those bad feelings about Big Papi or Pudge Rodriguez, who are two cute and cuddly players who are both in the Hall of Fame. I digress. I think a new hit king or a new home run champ would go a long way. But the problem is there's nobody really knocking on that door. I'm going to go over to baseballreference.com, the single greatest website in the history of the planet Earth. And you see who's even on the verge of 3,000 hits. Freddie Freeman is currently the current hit leader, and he has 2,200 hits. And he's been playing for a while. This is his 15th season. I mean, if he gets to 3,000, fine. No one's getting to 4,000. Jose Altuve will probably get to 3,000. But again, he's played for 14 years, and he could very easily break down. And look, Jose Altuve is a tremendous player. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. He has some baggage too, and some buzzers. Yeah, I believe that story. No one's going to come close to Pete Rose. Nobody. And in terms of current active home run leaders, there's nobody who's going to be close to passing Bonds or Henry Aaron. The funny thing is that we all, for a while we thought that Rodriguez was clean and that he was going to even when he re-signed that big long contract, Scott Boras said we're going to have a clean home run champion because he re-signed the contract with the Yankees in 2007, which was just after Bonds wound up passing Aaron. So it was like there was a little bit, we're going to have a clean home run champ. And then we found out, no, it's not the case. Aaron Judge is going to will wind up hitting 400 some odd home runs, but he's already in his 30s, and you see that he can, while he's going to have yet another MVP season, it'd probably be elite for a few more years, he's not going to come close to 700 home runs. The great hope that everyone seemed to have for a period of time was Trout. Now, Trout was probably not going to get to 4,000 hits because he walked too often, but he got on base more than anyone. But it's, there's that sense whether or not you think that 3,000 hits are the all-time home run record is just easy to define. There's no moment when someone passes a certain number of WAR. He has to be that great moment of there's the hit that passed him, that's the home run that passed. Well, Trout, his peak, at his peak, he wasn't hitting 200 hits a year because he was also walking 100 times a year. At his peak, he wasn't hitting 50 home runs because he was also getting 30 some odd doubles a year. Now, right now, he's sitting at 378 home runs, but he's in the official injury-prone part of his career. He'll get 400, maybe even 500 home runs, and he'll get 2,000 some odd hits. But his records won't be anywhere near there. Shohei Ohtani is going to do things we've never seen before. He's going to put up numbers in so many different categories that'll be absolutely mind-boggling. However, he is not going to pass. He may pass 3,000 hits. He may pass 400 home runs, but he won't break any records. If there's anyone who's going to be approaching any of those potential stats, and he's going to be an interesting person to take a look at this offseason, it's Juan Soto. You take a look at Juan Soto. Juan Soto's already at 900 hits. He'll pass 1,000 hits at some point next year. He's already at 197 home runs. He's going to pass 200 home runs this year. So if someone's going to bust that record, if someone's going to bust Pete Rose's record, right now, Juan Soto's going to be 26 years old at the end of this year. And this is his 7th season. And he'll already be at 1,000 hits. So if he could, but here's the problem. He's never hit 160 hits a year. We don't have these players other than Altuve who pile up the 200 hit seasons. We need a record breaker like that. I don't know who it is. Maybe they're not playing yet. Maybe they won't play for another generation. But we need that because having that fun record to follow. Did they do it? Did they do it? It made the Ripken chase fun, and it made the Sosa McGuire chase fun, whether or not you like them or not. Whether or not you wanted them to succeed or not is not the point. It was something positive that drew people together. And it was something positive that, quite frankly, made people who were not even big fans of the game get super excited and be like, oh, I get it. Baseball needs a little bit of that now. We just don't know who that person's going to be. All right, let's hear from our friends over at PrizePicks. You know about PrizePicks, or you should know about PrizePicks. If you know anything about this show, you should know a lot about PrizePicks. Here's the deal about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best and easiest way to play daily fantasy sports. They've got more than 5 million active members. And it's the most exciting way to play the daily fantasy sports because unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as few as 4 correct picks. It's the best way to get on the action, and it's included in most states, including Texas, Georgia, and here in California. And PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money, even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So here's what you do. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks. You know what you should do? You should run your game on PrizePicks. All right. Hey, thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. I'll tell you what your second listen should be. Your second listen should be Locked On A's. Why Locked On A's? Well, it's more of your pal Sully. I'm there for you all year long on this. This is the last month that I'm doing both shows. And this is a strange time to follow the A's because these are their final few weeks of being the Oakland A's. And then they begin their vagabond ways again. And an upcoming show is going to be me at the Oakland Coliseum for the last ever game of the Oakland A's. So we should be able to check it out. So follow us at Locked On A's wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, let's take a look at who's playing here on this weekend. The Cubs are playing a day game against the Yankees. And time might be running out on the Cubs. Got to get things going here. The Brewers marching towards a division title. They're going to be taking on the Rocks. They should be able to beat them up. The Nationals and the Pirates are playing. The Rays and the Orioles, as the Orioles are continuing to be hot on the heels of the Yankees. The Reds and the Mets, that would be a huge series if we went back in time to 1973. It's an all-Sox series in Fenway, White Sox versus Red Sox. The Phillies and the Marlins are taking each other on. Remember that was a playoff matchup last year? That actually happened. The Blue Jays and the Braves, a rematch of the 92 postseason World Series right there. The Angels, the aforementioned Angels, when it comes to the Mike Trout, are taking on the defending champion Rangers. We'll see how that goes. Is the Diamondbacks versus the Astros, will that be a World Series matchup? Well, it might be a fun one if you just look at it for terms of baseball. The Twins and the Royals, and a critical AL Central matchup going on there. The Mariners and the Cardinals are taking each other on. The Tigers visit Oakland for the final time. San Diego and San Francisco do an all-California matchup. And a potentially interesting World Series, what if? Dodgers versus Guardians. That could be the World Series. Now, let's talk about the trivia question. Mike Schmidt holds the record for most home runs by someone who played their entire career for one team. Who holds that record for an American leaguer who played their entire career for just one team? Put the answer right down here. Hey, on Locked On MLB on YouTube or on Twitter or on Instagram, or follow me at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Talking about the anniversary, it's the 29th anniversary, is always special, of the Cal Ripken game and the need for a big, big record-breaking moment. This has been Locked On MLB for the 6th day of September 2024. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Have a great weekend, everyone, and please call me Sully.